Cartological to ignore. This one isn't as serious as most of the ones on here, but I enjoy it and have gotten into many a convo about it. In the 2017 NBA playoffs, a player named Markieff Morris, who at the time played for the Washington Wizards, hurt his ankle in game 1. This was only 11 minutes into the game and he didn't return. The injury looked like he would be out for a couple weeks and no one expected him to play game 2. But he showed up game 2 and played as if he was never injured. In fact, had his best game statistically of the playoffs to that point. Here's where it gets interesting. Markieff Morris has an identical twin brother named Marcus who also plays in the NBA. His brother was playing for the Pistons, who were eliminated from the playoffs already. The theory is that Marcus played for his brother. Both brothers have the exact same tattoos and don't have any super apparent different traits. Here's the Ringer's breakdown on it. Denver Airport being a fallout shelter for the elite. The fact that it went like $1 billion over budget and all the symbolism. 1. Kennedy gets elected. 2. Kennedy is critical of the CIA, his own VP and military for wanting to turn the Cold War into a hot one and the willingness to perform false flag operations. Project Northwoods. To do it. 3. Kennedy is shot. 4. His VP takes power. 5. Classified. You missed out the most important part. He bangs Marilyn Monroe. Pretty sure I saw it here on Reddit at one point, but someone brought up the art trade. That these $1 million art shows individual pieces that go for insanely high prices are just a way for money laundering. Tax write-off even. So a real estate friend of mine told me that if you made $1 million you should get a Style painting done. Have a mate who happens to be an art critic or evaluator value the piece at $50,000, then donate that piece to charity stating its value. That allows you to claim a deductible of $50,000 towards your taxable income due to your charitable donation. Genius. David Miscavige, the chairman of the Church of Scientology, definitely murdered his wife and is getting off scot-free for it. Him and his wife got into a pretty heated argument in 2007, and she hasn't been seen since. Lawyers hired by David claim she is still alive and devotes 100% of her time to work at the Church of Scientology, which is why she hasn't been seen since August 2007. In 2013, a former member of the church had filed a missing person report that was closed after a few officers had spoken and seen Mrs. Miscavige. Even though there's no evidence whatsoever of this meeting, all missing persons reports now are turned down since this investigation is forever closed. Leah Remini has had it investigated as well and written letters to Shelley with no response. Before Leah left the church she wrote letters to Shelley that the church refused to deliver, and when she asked where Shelley was she was told she didn't have clearance to ask that question. The lead cop that was tasked to investigate when Leah filed a missing persons report, apparently after he came back with the bull she's totally fine and just doesn't want to be seen story. Leah found pictures of that cop speaking at a Scientology event. So crooked, she is either dead or locked in a bunker. If she is being stored in a ice fridge, it could be both things. Look at what happened to her mother. On the 8th of September, 1985, 52-year-old Flo Barnett, a longtime Scientologist, was found dead from 3 somewhat superficial rifle shots to the chest and a fatal shot to the head. The autopsy also reported that there were slash marks on her wrists that may have been a few days old. The death was ruled a suicide. What? Why would she have multiple bullet wounds to the chest and head if she committed suicide? Flo Barnett, the mother-in-law to David Miscavige, did not kill herself. She is happy, healthy, and alive. Boom boom. The Church of Scientology is screwy anyway. I wouldn't doubt it. Amazed that I haven't seen Gary Webb mentioned. Expose the CIA for assisting in drug trafficking and commit suicide with 2 bullets to the head. Worst case of suicide I've ever seen. Reminds me of the dude in India who was stabbed in the back 12 times with a knife and the police ruled it as a suicide. It worked so well he shot himself a second time. This one is small and local but still too insane to ignore and just came up today. Just recently, our small suburban town's favorite gas station went out of business. Everyone went there. The guy who ran it was the mayor. He retires and sells the property after an issue with the ground underneath the gas pumps. They tear down the gas pumps and keep the garage. Mavis Tire bought the property and opened a new store. A few days after the Mavis opens, Someone posts a picture on Facebook of an intersection at a road near it with nails all over the road. The guy theorizes that a box of nails fell off of a construction truck. The police come clean it up and it seems all is well. Fast forward a few days later and people are commenting on the post that they're finding nails in their car tires. Not just from that intersection. People jokingly say maybe it was the new Mavis guys throwing nails around, but nothing really happens. Several weeks later, people have been posting day in and day out pictures of nails in their car tires. My dad took my car into the Mavis in question about 3 weeks ago and they found a nail inside of the right front tire. I noticed that it was driving sort of funny, but never that my tire was on the verge of exploding. I jokingly said people have been saying you guys have just been going around throwing nails all over the place, trying not to laugh at how insane it sounded to say out loud. The guy behind the counter said nothing but yeah with a weird smirk. Over 50 people have posted on the town Facebook that their cars have had nails in their tires. My mom is driving my car now because her car has a nail in the tire. It's been almost 3 months. I'll post updates if anyone is interested. PFFT, it's not even a joke, it's the truth. It sounds like it makes no sense. Nails? Dude, if an investigation is launched and they find a bunch of nails inside of the shop, like boxed up and unopened, can't they lose business? Sounds more to me like that cashier heard that joke for the 20th time that day and was a bit asked to really care about it. The Denver airport theory. I mean, the capstone of the building literally has the Freemason logo on it. There's some weird apocalypse murals on the walls. The runways look like a swastika. And there's a 50-foot tall horse statue with red glowing eyes. I mean, seriously, who the F designed that place? Building the airport cost $3 billion more than expected and the labor was piecemealed out through countless contractors. So nobody who built it knows the full scope of it. Oh, and that 50-foot tall horse statue with red glowing eyes killed its creator. Deer is a weird place. I have a buddy who did work at Deer. Confirmed the whole underground thing goes way underground. He was let in an elevator with security and was escorted to a massive underground space. Wasn't able to leave without security escorts. That whole thing. Plus Deer was one of the largest earth moving projects, at least in Colorado. I'm sure there's a stat somewhere for that. And they moved way more ground than seemed necessary. Deer's been undergoing renovations lately, and the marketing pokes fun at the conspiracy theories. It's quite funny actually. Blue Cipher, the demon horse, did kill its creator, but he's still Denver's favorite red-eyed demon horse. US intelligence conducting organized blackmail operations out of Epstein's Island. The prosecutor handling Epstein's old case was told to back off and go easy because Epstein was intelligence. Acosta's departure from the administration confirmed that this was not just a rumor. So as an American, I would really like to know exactly who was blackmailing who, how far it extended, and what political decisions were affected. Trader Joe's makes their parking lots small intentionally to make it seem like it's more popular. Some torture devices such as the Iron Maiden were made up hundreds of years later so people would think, well, a regular hanger ain't too bad then. This is literally true as far as the Iron Maiden. I'm pretty sure one of the Simon Whistler things talked about this like last week. With all the scientists in the world, there has to be at least one secret lab on this planet where they have cloned a human. I mean, it's theoretically possible to clone a human being. The main setback is ethical concerns. Then again, when has that ever stopped some people? Dr. Claw Inspector Gadget. Nutley NJ, where Martha Stewart was born, has a butcher shop every other corner. How much meat does one small blue-collar town need? Suspicious. This gives me hot fuzz vibes lol. You're saying Martha Stewart is an insatiable cannibal and has a private army of butchers quietly living amongst the sleepy townspeople, and then they secretly off them and prepare them for her to feast upon? The logical conclusion. I really don't see how it could be anything else. Let me introduce you to Wonkapasa, the theory that Oscar-winning director Bong Joon-ho made a sequel to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory with his 2012 film Snowpiercer. This theory is, in my mind, 100% true. The characters and plot lines just line up too well for it not to be. My dog did not go to Doggy Disneyland because he won a lifetime ticket for being a good boy. I think that he in fact died. That karma on Reddit really does nothing. That's exactly the thing I hate about Reddit. Karma makes being active on Reddit a competition. A competition with no reward. Our phones and all the apps on them are listening to conversation. I'm super anti-conspiracy theory, but this has happened to me way too many times in the last 2 years. I impulse shop really badly. I carry cash for the explicit purpose of I can use this guilt-free for an impulse purchase. 2 years ago I bought high-end lipstick with cash in a store after doing zero research on the brand. Next day I had ads for it despite never even previously hearing of that company before. I had only talked with a sales associate about the brand for a while. 6 months later a very similar thing happened when I switched hair care products to very specific brand. Later that night I had ads for their company which I had never heard of or looked up pre or post purchase. 8 months ago I ordered a cider I had never heard of at a bar in Nick. Didn't research the company or anything about it. Not even 2 hours after I left the restaurant I had ads for that brand of cider on my Facebook. There's easily 5-7 more times I could think of, but these are the ones that bother me the most because I am positive the transactions were all in cash. I had never looked up the product before, and I had very targeted specific ads from those exact companies less than a day later on most of my social media. Totally believe. Never did any research about martial arts or anything, but mention wanting to learn Krav Maga whilst grabbing coffee with a friend. And suddenly I get a ton of ads for Krav Maga and Jiu-Jitsu courses. I like that people always are worried that Epstein was murdered instead of suicide. What if this was a ploy to cover up that he just escaped or paid his way out of prison? Welsh, so Epstein really didn't kill himself is what we're agreeing on here. This is why I like the phrase Epstein didn't kill himself. It can be understood at least 2 ways. He died in prison by being murdered outright, or his powerful contacts helped him get out of prison. Same end results for the phrase. Some people had to talk about Fight Club, otherwise, it wouldn't exist. Tyler Durden instructing people to not talk about Fight Club isn't aimed at getting them to stop talking about Fight Club, it's teaching them to break rules. Or at least, that's how I always thought of it. The FBI keeps posting questions like this to see what the public knows. McDonald's shake machines are never actually down. The night crew people are just too lazy to clean it. That's usually the case from what I've been told by people who I know that work at McDonald's. They're basically like it's a giant pain in the A to clean and it takes literal hours to do. Google Maps only asks you for feedback on its navigation when it knows it did a good job. I use navigation all the time, and I find that when it gets me to the destination on time or earlier than predicted, I get a notification asking to rate the trip, but if it gets me there after it originally estimated, I never get that notification. It wouldn't be difficult to program this into the program, so you're likely correct. Google probably figures they don't want to ask you right after they did a bad job. That this question is reposted every couple of weeks by them to see just how close the public is to figuring out their schemes. And that this response is reposted every time to throw you off our trail. That's right, we're onto them being onto us being onto them. Typing in your email address to unsubscribe from a mailing list actually enters it into more mailing lists. Jamie Lynn Spears was read by Dan Schneider. He is the father of her first child. He ruined Zoe 101. Dan Schneider, Me Too. Part 2, The Kids Talk. This video of Ariana Grande is all you need to watch to know that there were some skeevy things going on BTS at Nickelodeon. https myoutube.com watch v equals VL0OUXWMTM and T equals 1S. What the actual F? Like the first few were weird but they just got worse and worse and the Fine Water one was just completely blatantly over the top. What the hell? Holy sh, how was this a thing? At first, it was a bit weird, but still not super bad. The finger down her throat was not right. The toe thing was 100% Schneider's foot fetish, and then it just got worse. Dan Schneider definitely has a foot fetish. 55 seconds in that video can attest to that. Just look at this image. I've never heard this one before but I believe it. I believe that the tangential theory to this is that Britney freaked out, shaved her head, and lost it in response to learning this. Brit was supposed to be the one suffering the abuse so her sister would be left alone. The fashion industry makes too much money from purses to care about making pockets for women easily available. Wanna really have your mind blown? Take your pants to a seamstress. We can add pockets or make existing pockets bigger. I do it all the time. $5 a pocket and I measure your phone to make sure it fits in without any issues. I don't think this is a conspiracy theory, it's just accepted fact. Jamie Lynn Spears, Miranda Cosgrove, Victoria Justice, etc. were read by Dan Schneider. Nickelodeon let him get away with a lot. There's so many feed jokes in all those shows. A lot of the interviews with those cast members get really awkward when they're around Dan. If you got to pursue your dream career when you really wanted it, wouldn't you do just about anything? If you made Dan Schneider mad, your career would be ruined and your dreams would be over. It's possible he didn't RE any of them but instead used his control of shows to make softcore kiddie porn so he could get off. That's the theory I believe for it. It would make more sense that the actors would be uncomfortable around him but never spoke out after they stopped working with Nickelodeon because they got creepy vibes from him but were not physically assaulted. He may have slipped up from time to time and went far enough to throw up even more red flags but was able to scrape by with, well, Dan is kinda creepy. Pedophile is debatable rather than yeah, he is definitely a pedophile and we have enough to convict him. Like in the 80s he was a computer whiz and set up many home servers for wealthy people in LA. He could potentially have dirt on powerful people. Now, where it really gets crazy is with Jamie Lynn Spears. Many believe that her child is Schneider's. The family wouldn't release the father's name, only stated that it was someone working on set, whose career would be destroyed. I assume they were paid off. Feet. Time to sort by controversial. Guys, I know this is a really crazy theory, but I think some rich people might be corrupt. Pro tip. Read the comments in Alex Jones' voice before deciding whether to believe them. Probably too late to this thread, but the idea that there are too many chicken wings for the amount of chicken sold. There is something like 1 billion chicken wings sold every Super Bowl. Where are they coming from? Well, you technically get 4 wings from every bird, so 1 chicken equals 4 wings. So 2020 Super Bowl had 1.25 billion wings divided by 4 and that's 312,500,000 chickens. 9 billion chickens are eaten in the US. So it really needs to be asked, where are the other 34,750,000,000 chicken wings? This is the most terrifying one in the thread. The US government's involvement in the crack coke epidemic. Well, that's a proven fact now, right? For your information, the moon landings were real. In fact, there were 6 in total and it's not hard to achieve. The real moon landings were the friends we made along the way. Ronan Farrow is obviously Frank Sinatra's kid, not Woody Allen's. See for yourself. I will say that, while I may believe this theory, that picture comparison that shows Sinatra as a young man, Ronan as a young man, and all day Woody Allen, isn't the best comparison. Woody Allen has never been young. That's my conspiracy theory. NASCAR is fake, it's just Hot Wheels going around a track and all the sounds are made by one guy in a sound booth imitating what he thinks a race car would sound like. The true conspiracies are right in front of our eyes. The extent of corporate control over the democratic process is no secret, but we're all too busy debating the moon landing, flat earthers and anti-vaxxers. That the US knowingly left POWs behind in Vietnam. Isn't that just the plot of the second Rambo film? Yep, it is. Popular culture has reflected the live prisoners theory, most notably in the 1985 film Rambo, First Blood Part II. Source: Wikipedia. Wasn't the whole idea that they didn't want to admit that people were dead, dying in large numbers, and decided to just relabel them MIA instead for propaganda purposes, and the public opinion of the war was turning negative? Can you elaborate further as to why you think this? Genuinely curious. Because the POWs were in prisons where the US could not rescue them, and the government didn't care. That's the story, at least. Jar Jar Binks was supposed to be a Sith Lord and the big bad of the Star Wars prequels, but George Lucas screwed up the directing and then chickened out after seeing the public reception of the character. See also our Darth Jar Jar. Amazon Go isn't about replacing cashiers, but about selling stock, receiving tax breaks for R&D and selling marketing analytics on the shoppers. This is why the stores are placed in financial districts and aren't open 24 hours or the weekend. Their camera system is backed up by employees watching you. Google Amazon Go Chicago. They are closed right now. I believe that the US government has men in black that make people disappear if they know more than what's good for them. Welp, you're screwed now. Yep, and it's gonna be a suicide. Secret societies definitely exist. Who controls the British Crown? Who keeps the metric system down? We do. We do. Oh yeah. All you need to do is get a couple of buddies together. Privately meet as a group. Give yourselves a name and don't tell anyone. Bingo. You have a secret society. A guy I know once told me he was part of the Billuminati in university. It was just 6 guys all called Bill who would meet at the pub once a month and tried to help with each other's goals. No, we don't. Non-Illuminati confirmed. And chemtrails. New Coke was a way for Coca-Cola to switch from real sugar to corn syrup without people noticing. Switch to the new formula that everyone hates. Keep it for a while so that people demand the old one back. Then switch it back after enough time has passed that people wouldn't notice the relatively subtle change. I thought it was just a ploy to drive up sales and the stock price. Switch to a new formula which people don't like. I'll still continue to buy out of habit because Coke is such an institution. Then release Coke Classic which everyone misses and the sales skyrocket. The change is not subtle at all once you've switched to Mexican Coke for a while, which is still made with cane sugar. Going back to the corn syrup Coke is awful now. It coats your mouth in this weird gross way that is hard to ignore. This isn't a conspiracy theory but I find any chance I can to say that dinosaurs definitely had feathers and deniers are just clinging to Spielberg's image of them. Ostriches are basically velociraptors. Update. Yeah, I get it. Cassowaries exist. I just don't wanna think about a T-Rex looking like a refine chicken mayo. The NFL manipulates its games just enough in order to get the best product out of their season because they are a business with billions of dollars on the line. With the number of billionaires that are psychopaths or similar, there must be a few super rich serial killers out there. By extension there must be people making money supplying victims in the same way Epstein was supplying girls to the wealthy who wanted to scratch an itch. With the money, power and influence would come governments and intelligence agencies willing to overlook or cover up terrible actions for leverage. This makes sense to me. When you can literally buy anything, the only interesting things become those things you aren't supposed to be able to get. The most dangerous game comes to mind here. There are theories that many famous female stars who were blacklisted, Megan Fox is a good example, were blacklisted because they refused to sleep with directors and producers. Nothing's actually happening in Area 51. The government just keep it so people will focus on it and ignore the shady stuff happening somewhere else. Actually, Area 51 was created during the Cold War as a testing and development facility for aircraft, including the U-2 and SR-71 Blackbird reconnaissance planes. And currently it's probably being used to test few weapons and that's it. Every country has their secret projects and we all know it. The entire alien and conspiracy theories have only fueled movies and TV shows. That's it. I quite like the missing cosmonauts theory. It's unlikely but seems like it could have been possible. It boils down to the idea that Yuri Gagarin wasn't the first man in space. He was just the first man in space to survive the entire process. There was nothing found about any of this in the Soviet archives after the fall of the USSR. All the novels written by Dean Koontz are in fact written by a golden retriever. The man in all of the author pictures was hired because no one would take a dog novelist seriously.